And with that, I have Russell and Andrew here from WatchGuard today, who are going to be helping me kind of showcase what a next generation firewall looks like. And for those who don't know, or this is the first time being a part of a webinar, I'm Josh Holloway. I'm the CEO for Seventh Dimension. I've invited Russell and Andrew. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Russell Lindsay. I'm the sales engineer for WatchGuard. I'm in kind of over some of the technical aspects of the product set that we have at WatchGuard, and we'll be just talking about specifically firewalls and where they fit in your networks today.
Thanks, Russell. And I'm Andrew Sharples. I manage the territory, basically supporting our channel reseller network, including Seventh Dimension. So I'm basically here to find out if there's any need, anything that I can help out with, help organize demos and webinars such as this. That's basically my role.
Awesome. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Andrew. All right. So today, obviously, we're going to be going through trends in the landscape. We always kind of talk about what different threatscapes there are and what is attacking us. Then we're going to go into the evolving role of the firewall, where that fits in the security stack, and then how it helps protect your employees with them not even knowing it. Followed by a raffle, a little bit of a giveaway for people showing up today as our way of saying thank you, WatchGuard's way of saying thank you, and then any questions at the end. We'll go ahead and field those, and then we can take the rest of that offline. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.
Great, thanks. So really what we want to talk about is security today, a little bit about firewalls and where they fit in your network. But I do want to touch on some of the security trends, just because security is top of mind for all businesses, particularly IT administrators and managers such as yourselves. There's so many things to consider as we manage our networks, particularly when bad actors are trying to gain access into our networks, right? Every day there's approximately 300,000 pieces of new malware that's created, which is just incredible. It's just the amount of bad stuff that's produced daily is incredible. Phishing's become a huge part of our daily lives as well. And as you guys probably have experienced, not only in email, but also in text messages now, as well as some of the messaging apps that we have, we're starting to see phishing happening in those. Businesses get attacked 50% more per week than they did in 2021. And so really security, it seems to be more and more on the top of everybody's mind. And not only are businesses being attacked more, to make things even more difficult, our networks are becoming increasingly more complex as well, with the increase of remote working from the last couple of years. Our networks are distributed much more and are becoming harder and harder to secure. And I should have probably mentioned ahead of time, we do want this to be kind of interactive. So if you do have something you want to jump in and comment on, by all means, feel free to come off mute and add a comment. I'm perfectly fine with you jumping in and either asking a question or making a comment. So please do that. We want this totally to be interactive with us. So,
well, I know I can jump in on this one too.
Yeah.
So just from the services that we provide, our stack, either cybersecurity or network stack, has grown exponentially, where we just come in with a common supply of software that protect the services, the firewalls, things like that. So every year I feel like I'm adding one or two more tools to our proverbial tool bag, if you will, and kind of continue to grow that complexity. And then also at the same time, we try and streamline our services to where it looks like that complexity has been mitigated, so that our clients kind of understand that all these things are happening, but I see it in a single line item. And that, I think that just speaks to like all the different things that IT providers as well as ourselves are doing.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, because of the complexity that we have in the networks, the attack surface of the network is just exploding. It now increases having to address user home environments as well as multiple cloud environments. It seems that our data is everywhere and securing it is becoming more and more complex. And this table just shows how the many different targets that exist in the network and some of the associated challenges. And I'm not going to read all of them, but a couple of them that I think are really key for us are the endpoints. You know, that's a definite target, and to be able to prevent, detect, and remediate malware is huge. And users are a huge target, probably the one that's targeted most, either phishing, credential theft, and insider threats even. So there's just a multitude of attack surface and complexity, right?
Right.
We've also seen, and as you all have seen, remote work has become more the biggest driver in network complexity recently as well. Just having to keep that in mind is sometimes tough. You know, these are kind of the main points that we've been seeing as the complexity challenges, multiple point solutions, and that's really one of the things that I think you know, Josh at 7 Dimension and his group can help out with, is with those multiple point solutions, being able to manage that in a stack that he's managing and maintaining, right? Instead of having to have separate consoles that you're working with in your environment. I'm sure that they've got that pretty dialed in, right?
Yeah, and for the most case, especially with the work from home workforce, this is where next generation firewalls become a necessity or a key. We're allowing people to work from home, and we have to be able to scan their traffic. We have to look for, was their computer compromised? Because some businesses will do the bring your own device, and certain policies won't be enacted where that device is fully threat protected, or have all of the same softwares we maybe deploy in company-owned hardware. That's where a good bring your own device policy is required. That's where having a good firewall is required, so that we can at least scan that incoming traffic from people who do bring their own device. And then also, we're still scanning the same traffic from the people who have gotten a device from their company. And we can ensure that if there was something that somehow found its way through, the firewall should also detect some level of some kind of a threat and continue to protect. We look at the threatscape as multiple levels of trenches, right? You have your first layer, your second layer, your third layer. And obviously, like, this is one of the big key parts for the work from home, as well as the people who work in the office. This protects them day in and day out, but this protects them everywhere now. And I think this is where it's super important to see a device like this in action, or use a device like this.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And just a couple of those other items just to mention: the cybersecurity skills gap. There's just so much stuff out there. It's hard to get good staff on hand, and that's where being able to rely on folks like 7th Dimension is really going to help benefit you folks as you maintain your networks. Lack of automation, you know, as an IT administrator, being able to go in and look at logs regularly, use the tools for vulnerability, with the stuff that we have to deal with every day, and the reduced staff that we always seem to have as an IT organization, it's just tough. And having the time to be able to get some of that automation put in place is tough. And then just cost control. The security dollar is small, as well as we've got to try and get the most out of each of those security dollars, and that's tough. Looks like Alicia asked us a question: can next gen firewalls be easily integrated to fit in with the existing security architecture? And the answer to that is yes. Once the firewall is really going to be at the edge of the network. It's going to be kind of that front door stopping point. And with the next gen firewalls, and we're going to talk about some of the functionality that's going to be in those here in just a few minutes. There's some layers that actually happen in those firewalls to help mitigate things before they even get into the network. And then you're obviously going to have other layers that are part of the stack that Josh and his team is providing with AV and other kind of tools inside of the network as well. So it's a great way to get that so that it fits in the network. And I'll let Josh, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I actually did want to add something to that for Alicia. We've gotten it down to a 10-minute disruption to the network when it comes to flipping from a standard firewall or a firewall that says it's next gen, but it's not quite cutting it. When we come in, we've gotten it down to 10 minutes, and then the disruption is almost nil to none. We typically work pretty hard to mitigate the disruption where we're starting to block websites that are, the reputation is lower than typical websites, or something has happened to them where their reputation has gone down, or obviously the standard sites that we don't want, or we as employers don't want anybody to go to. We block those automatically. So it's pretty easy to integrate these firewalls into the system and immediately begin to see changes. I think the funniest amount of changes I see is when we do the geo blocking and we begin to block specific countries of threat actors, and you go from having no blocked IP addresses to 60 within a split second, and they're all coming from nations where they may be trying to hack in or get in, and the firewall's automatically blocking them, and they'll never see the firewall again. In most cases, they'll just never be able to talk to it. And that's the one I get a kick out of. I know we use these firewalls in our data center, and at any given moment, we have at least 300 blocked IP addresses from what we're stopping people from hacking in. So that one, kind of right up front, you get to see what it looks like when a next generation firewall comes in and starts doing what you want it to do, which is protect the frontline defense.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah, according to whenever a breach occurs that involves remote work, getting exploit has significant, or getting exploited has significant costs that are associated with it. So many of you are familiar with probably the cyber kill chain. Traditionally, bad actors will do reconnaissance first, exploit known vulnerabilities that are in the network or in software in different places, execute and install tools, provide some command and control actions, move around inside the environment, and ultimately gain access to the target data that they're actually looking for. But why would bad actors actually go through all of that when a lot of times they can simply just sign into the network or the protected resource, and that's usually done because of compromised credentials that happen, phishing, social engineering, vulnerabilities in software. Those are all examples of how bad actors get into the network and compromise things easily. And so really, that's one of the main reasons why a firewall is so important in the network. A firewall with either next gen or UTM services, and we'll talk about the differences of those here in a moment, is positioned very, very well to block phishing, malware, like Josh was saying, stuff coming from countries that we don't even want to see. And the firewalls are able to sever those command and control activities and even help with some of that lateral movement in the network. And so really the firewall is that main component in breaking the chain and killing the attack. Looks like Melvin had a question. Will the next gen firewalls prevent attacks and quickly detect malware if it gets inside? So the answer to that is yes. The next gen firewalls a lot of them will have some kind of functionality that has some advanced malware and AV functionality that will be watching the traffic as it passes through, so it can identify and stop those things from passing through the firewall and getting into the network initially.
Yeah, I think for that one too, also to help Melvin answer that question, when you configure the firewall, the provider, the IT department, they want to be doing things to stop kind of like a free flow of data out, right? So sometimes these actors will attempt to utilize DNS. DNS is a service that when you type in www.google.com, it goes and actually gets that address. Well, sometimes they'll exploit that to share information through those channels. And a good firewall, when you set it up right, you can actually block it to where that's auto blocked, and then that computer gets flagged. There's ways of doing that to where if the computer acts outside the norm of your thresholds, the firewall can actually block it from speaking out to the internet, and then it can happen before the detection software even notifies us that something's going on. But the firewall is a good hand in hand with some of the softwares we deploy locally on systems.
Yep.
So yeah, it would definitely help detect the malware and almost point out the system if it's set up proper, if the firewall is set up properly. Yeah.
Correct. So now I'm going to talk quickly about the what a next-gen firewall is, and actually what the difference between that and what's termed as a UTM firewall as well. So what do we mean when we talk about next-gen firewall? So a next-gen firewall, instead of just providing evaluation of source, destination, and protocol, it provides some additional intrusion prevention and application control functionality. So actually looking at not just traffic coming in, but also traffic that's being used on the network going outbound as well, to help make sure that things are protected. And this allows the firewall to protect and detect activity as it's passing through. A UTM firewall, it really builds on top of next gen, and so it really kind of mixes together between UTM and next gen firewalls, where the next gen includes those three that we see on the left hand side there, and then UTM on the right hand side has those same three plus additional things such as website filtering, antivirus inspection, sandboxing, anti-phishing, DNS control, all of those pieces. And so a real robust type firewall to be able to provide good functionality inside of the network, or at the edge of the network, and prevent things from getting inside of the network, I should say.
I want to hit on the intrusion portion of it, because
Yes.
a lot of people are either going after cybersecurity insurances, or they have a renewal coming up. The last renewals I've worked on in the last 90 days, there's a couple of questions regarding intrusion prevention, detection, remediation. If you don't have a next-gen firewall, you don't have that capability. And you have to be able to report or receive notifications that intrusion occurred or an attempt occurred. And when that happens, only thing that's going to catch that is going to be these firewalls. And the cyber liability policies are almost mandating that everybody have a next gen firewall. And it's one of the biggest pieces is the intrusion prevention. So that's a huge key factor to keep in mind.
Yeah, the security threats and the technology available to combat the threats has significantly evolved, and so creating, it's created the demand for additional network services that need to be in place. That threat, intrusion prevention, threat detection, AV, DNS, all of those types of things, as well as some sandboxing capabilities. So, I mean, really, it shouldn't be just checking the box of whether you have a next gen or a UTM firewall. Really, what we should be getting to in our networks is the right application to meet the security deployment and management requirements that each of our unique organizations and networks has. And so that's really the big thing. And I think Seventh Dimension is going to actually help you with some of that evaluation. They're doing their due diligence ahead of time and providing that information for you, and providing you with what they see as the best products to be able to put in place for you to help mitigate that at the edge of the network at the firewall level. One of the many benefits that the firewall can provide is also VPN and secure access to resources inside of our networks. Through VPN, we can safely and securely access internal web applications, as well as other internal applications that are running that are server-based, running in the network. And VPN also provides us a secure way to do remote desktop connections, either to servers or even workstations, as well as SSH connections. So VPN is also a big component of the firewall that will help secure the environment as things are happening. The firewall can provide protection against intrusions and malware, as well as enforce web filtering and content policies. And those things will preserve the network bandwidth, help block inappropriate content, and help maintain your employee productivity as well. And then one of the big things that we're seeing more and more is that hackers are hiding their exploits inside of HTTPS or SSL traffic. And being as that's encrypted traffic, it's not as easy to be able to see that. And so having a firewall device that has the capability to decrypt and look at HTTPS or SSL traffic, evaluate it, and see if there's exploits happening in there is starting to become more and more prevalent, more and more important in our networks. Being able to detect and block that malware that's hidden will definitely help protect the network from all those bad actors out there.
And I think the biggest thing there is anybody who's ever been in any of my webinars, I always talk about looking at the URLs for the website, right? It doesn't say HTTPS. Do you see the lock? Sometimes it's a green bar. That what he's talking to is that traffic right there that we've hit on a couple of times. That's already encrypted, but because we're getting to a point where almost all websites need to have that certificate. Obviously, you build a better mousetrap, you're going to build a better mouse. So now what we're seeing is people are deploying their malware through something that we should be using to protect ourselves and protect our traffic. They're now protecting their traffic and trying to slide that in, pass through there. So that this is where the firewall takes apart that request, that traffic, and analyzes it and scans it so that it can see payload, or it can see a virus, or something along those lines. So keep looking for the HTTPS and the certificates when you're going to your websites. But know when you have a UTM device or next gen firewall, whatever you want to call it, with the content filtering and web filtering, this is helping to protect even that traffic and make it safer for you when you're going out to these services.
Yep. And and I'm going to talk specifically now just a little bit about our WatchGuard firewall product, the Firebox appliance. And it does have the ability to do that in inspection of HTTPS content. It provides multiple layers of zero-day protection, has the ability to build those VPNs so that users can be protected as they're getting into networks. And then it actually has some direct integration with multi-factor authentication, or what's called MFA. You might see 2FA talked about as well. Cybersecurity insurance is really pounding on that. And so the firewall has the ability to integrate pretty seamlessly with some of those MFA products. When properly configured, the WatchGuard firewall provides maximum protection in your networks. And just as an example, WatchGuard appliances conduct more than 1 billion security scans per hour and has protected customer environments 22 billion times over the last year, as different exploits and different things are starting to try and infiltrate the network. On average, a WatchGuard Firebox appliance blocks around 250 attacks and 1,300 malicious files per appliance per year. And so that provides some significant protection to your networks. This is really the last slide that I'm gonna just talk about. We've been talking about that network side on the far left, and a little bit about the remote access on the far right. At WatchGuard, we also do have products that talk about, or that help in the Wi-Fi area, endpoint, and multi-factor authentication. And so that helps just to kind of provide not just that edge of the network with the firewall protection, but throughout the whole network. And so, you know, the firewall, that's the beginning point, and that's really a huge crucial piece that I mean, even still today, I see smaller businesses trying to get away with just a small, you know, Linksys router or something that has some kind of firewalling, quote unquote, stuff, and they're going to get compromised.
A lot of times what we see is when we come in is people are relying on the firewall provided by their ISP, not realizing that there's not much protecting them there. A lot of times the full functionality is not even turned on. So that's why it's important to look at, you know, what's being installed and how is that frontline defense being put in. Russell, hey, I wanted to say thank you. I know Andrew didn't chime in for this one, but it's awesome having you guys in from WatchGuard. Now I kind of like to open it up for a QA if anybody has any other questions before we get to the raffle and all that fun stuff. So if there's any questions, go ahead and either unmute or drop them in the chat. We're going to leave this open for a couple of minutes before we do the raffle. Looks like I got one direct message to me. We'll go ahead and go with this one. So, do next generation firewalls have flexible management and deployment? Every firewall has a different management interface. I've worked with pretty much every firewall manufacturer out there and looked at every one of their interfaces. By far, I feel like the WatchGuard is more intuitive. So it is easier to deploy and manage. You can get straight to what you're looking for fairly quickly. So yeah, I would say definitely flexible management and deployment options. Their support is awesome when it comes to needing help. If the traffic's not quite routing properly, things are getting blocked that you can't find to unblock. Their support has always been great for us. I've been a WatchGuard user since 2000, I think. 22 years. I had nobody do the math based on that on how old you think I am, but I've been working with this product for a very long time. Oh, awesome, Alicia, thank you so much. I'm glad this could help you out.
Great feedback.
Oh, also, there's a question added to that one. Does the next gen firewalls accelerate malware detection to mitigate risk? Yes, and that's because it's for me, it's yes, because it's scanning at the front line. Russell, you have anything else you want to add to that one?
Yeah, definitely. And I would 100% agree with that. It's scanning at the front line as traffic's passing through the firewall, being able to detect that malware. And on the WatchGuard firewalls, specifically, there's a couple different layers. We've got gateway AV as well as an intelligent AV, and then some sandboxing capabilities that will allow the firewall to evaluate traffic as it passes through each of those, to be able to either identify if it's not something that's signature based, if it's heuristics, if it's something that we're just not understanding, it gets sandboxed. And so, yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, one of the things we could have done, and this would have made for a very long webinar, is start to show you the interface and the things that you can see. So to accelerate the malware detection, yes, definitely. Another question that came up was, does it provide a comprehensive visibility of my network? One of the nicest things I think I've ever seen was the way WatchGuard shows you the traffic and the usability and where everything is going, who's your biggest bandwidth user, what are the sites that they're hitting, where's that going? Very comprehensive. So if you're trying to track down something that somehow got through, it shows a lot of good information. So that it definitely helps with the visibility. All right, any other questions before we go ahead and give away some money? All right, while we wait, Taylor's going to go ahead and do an automated run through to see who won this one. Just waiting for her to let me know. All right, so it looks like there's no other questions. With that being said, Lisa B, you're our winner. We'll be emailing you your $50 Amazon gift card for joining today and going through this webinar with us. Obviously, we like to keep these short and sweet, so you walk away with a lot of information in a short amount of time, but we also are mindful of your time. If anybody has any questions regarding firewalls or looking at the data, do they have the right firewall setup? Obviously, we're here to help. We're here to augment your current IT if they have questions as well. And these firewalls seem pretty interesting for you to want to deploy, or if you have one, we can always look at it and see if it's set up properly. Happy to do a discovery meeting, any MDR live threat demos, want to take a look at a WatchGuard and look at the traffic passing through it. Russell, Andrew, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you everybody for saying thank you on the chat and for enjoying this webinar. I want to say have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and look forward to the next webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.